All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to start off by giving all praises to Yahawashi, Yahawashi, Bashim, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great millstone who rule well. And also honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect and are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. All right, so I wanted to get into the topic of the virgin birth, but not specifically the virgin birth. More so, um, the history and customs that lead us to understand that the Lord Yahawashi had to have been born of a man in order to receive some of the titles that he had, to receive, namely, the kingship that he was titled with. I was watching Captain Tazariak, and he was in the car doing like a live. I watched probably about 10-15 minutes of it, and I guess he got it set up where. Oh, so like, excuse me. I guess he has it set up where people can call in and ask questions, and someone asked him to explain the virgin birth. And just to give him credit, he went into it the right way. But I started getting into I won't say forgotten, but it had been some time since. So it had been some time since I had gone into all the details, and I said, "Damn, what if somebody, what if somebody asked me the question? Um, would I be prepared to answer it?" So as I was combing through some of the information and details, and refreshing myself, I said, "You know what? Let me just put it up as a show." So there's quite a bit of detail. But what I want to say is this. This is another case of Christianity and their, let's say, I don't want to say this, like, I always say this, right? That when you are a Christian, or when you're, let's say, breaking into Christianity, you learn the doctrine in this way, where you learn, or let me say it this way, you learn your religion in this way, where you get the doctrine first, right? What are the main, let's say, tenets of your doctrine, right? And then you learn the scriptures to support your doctrine, right? But when you do that, it stunts you, right? It doesn't allow you to really comb through and get into some other details or more details. And I mean, I've never been like the best of Christians. I've been in the Baptist church. I grew up in the Baptist church, but I've never been the best of Christians, right? So I can't really say what their thought process is, but what I'll say is this: it seems to, when you run into scriptures that may disagree or disregard with your doctrine, they either ignore them or they don't even get a chance to get to them, because they feel content with what it is they have been given to support, again, their doctrine, right? The difference with us is the scriptures lead our doctrine, right? The scriptures lead what it is we say, right? We always go back to the quote. I think it was a Sir Isaac Newton. Let me see if I can find that, just to make this point real quick. Sir Isaac Newton. Let's see. Men, literal interpretation, something like that. I don't know if I'm spelling that right. I think there's an E in there. Boom. Sir Isaac Newton said, about the times of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition, right? And, he was right, right? You got the men of the Lord that are out on the highways and byways, allowing what they believe to be based on the scriptures, not the doctrine, and then fitting the scriptures into the doctrine, but their doctrine being led and formulated by what the scriptures say, right? I was thinking of something else too. What is it? This escapes me now. Let's go. Let's do it like this. This is now an afterthought. This is why I don't have it all. This is why I don't have it pulled up. Oh, sola, not sole. Sola scriptura. Sola scriptura, right, is a Christian theological doctrine that states the Bible is the sole source of authority for Christian faith and practice, right? So where did this come from? Let me see if it says anything about it. It says it down here. Sola Scriptura is a principle of the Protestant Reformation and is held by most Protestant Christian denominations, especially the Lutheran and Reformed traditions. You're not going to give my man the credit? Yep. So this term, this Latin term here, Sola Scriptura, let's see if they give it down here. Yep. So let's do it this way. So this Lutheran, right, is a term that comes from Luther, right, from the man Martin Luther, who is let's say, quote unquote, the father of the Lutheran Church, right? And if you get into the history, I'm now getting sidetracked here, but that's fine because it gives a full picture, right? So when you get into the history about Martin Luther, excuse me, and how he started the Protestant Church, right? The word Protestant means to protest, right? And what were they protesting? They were protesting the early church and their, let's say, um, taking advantage of the people that were in the church or involved in the church. So what was happening was when a man would sin, right, they would go to the quote unquote confessional. They would confess their sins, and there would be a punishment associated with those sins, right? Some in some cases, if it was light, they would make them say a certain amount of Hail Marys. Um, they might get whipped, right? So what the church was doing, they said, okay, if you don't want to get your punishment, you pay the church what was known as a penance, right? And you can get into this history. I don't I'm trying to make this point so I can so I get back to what I was talking about. So you can look into all of this, but um, so now they paid a penance, right? So um, what people were doing when they would go to confessional, they would bring money instead of getting their punishments. They would bring money, which is basically what Jake was doing in ancient times. They would be ready to commit their sins, so they'd have their turtle dove over there, or they have their bullocks or lambs or so forth and so on, commit their sin, and then go and sacrifice, right? And then just go ahead and you sacrifice it, and then their sin could be blotted out, right? And so Martin Luther didn't like this, so he wrote a thesis, right? And um, in there, he made that statement, sola scriptura, which meant by scripture alone, right? So we should be running the church by what the scriptures say, not by what dogma says, not by what doctrine says, right? Because doctrine, right, can be skewed. Matter of fact, to make that point, there be a way that seemeth right unto a man. I think that's Proverbs 14. I want to say Proverbs 14 and 12. I think. Proverbs 14:12, it says, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death, right? So when man is in charge of creating the doctrine, and that man is not sent by the Heavenly Father, the doctrine gets away from what the scriptures say. Matter of fact, this happens from time to time, but Paul said this, I marvel. That's something, Ephesians 6, I think it is. Oops. Galatians 1:6. Salakia. Galatians 1:6, it says, I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Hamashiach unto another gospel, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Hamashiach, right? Boom. So it says, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed, right? So, even Paul said, how can you be so far gone or so far pulled away from this gospel that we taught you, right? And it was a marvel unto him. It was surprising unto him. Let's go into that word marvel real quick. Theomatsu, thumatsu, to wonder at, marvel, to be wondered at, to be had in admiration, right? Which is not what he meant, right? So we understand what this is saying. It's like, damn, what's wrong with y'all, right? And so this is what happens though when you allow men to be in charge of what the doctrines is, as opposed to what the scriptures say, right? The Heavenly Father gave us the scriptures, right? Really, we can even expand that to say He gave us the Lord Yahawashi, who is the scriptures, right? Which is the Comforter, which is the Spirit, so forth and so on, right? And so we have to comb through those scriptures to understand what's being said, and that's how you formulate your doctrine. I just want to make this one last quick point, just to say what I'm saying. I was watching this is years ago now. The elder apostle Tahar was getting into Genesis, the first chapter, and this was an old video. He had a little portable chalkboard, and he was writing on it, and he was teaching a class. To show you how long ago it was, he had no grays in his beard, and he was talking about how the lights in the heavens were created, right? You had a greater light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night. And this someone in the class or audience said, they teach us in school that the moon gets its light from the sun. Elder Apostle Tahar said, what? That's bullshit. And the point is, he had got so deep into what the scriptures teach at that point that sounded so foreign to him, right? Because the scriptures are clear on what that is. You have a light for the day, and you have a light to rule over the night, which is the sun and the moon, right? And they both have their own light, right? And so that was the elder apostle Tahar in that case, allowing the scriptures to lead what the doctrine is, right? Or what the doctrine is, right? And so that's what we're gonna do. I got quite a few details here that I wanted to get into. All right. So first, I want to get into some customs, right? Historically, right? But in particular, when it comes to our culture, meaning Israelite culture, right? Things were, let's say, when it came to nationhood or nationality, when it came to inheritance, um, and in particular the promises, right? These things were passed down through the line of fathers, or how they say patrilineally, right? Let me look that up. I didn't look that up. Let's go back over here real quick. patrilineally. I think I'm spelling that right. Oh, let's do this. Just put definition. They'll pull it up for me. Patrilineal, right, means relating to or based on descent through the male line, right? It can also refer to a society that bases ancestry on the male line rather than the female line, right? And that is our custom. That is our history for things to be passed down patrilineally, right? So when you go into, let's say, let's go here. Let's do it like this, just real quick, and then I want to come back to this. But when you go to Matthew's, the first chapter here, and I spoke about this a couple of days ago, and I even mentioned it at camp yesterday. But when you go into this, right, Matthew's 1 and all the way down to when you get to verse 18, the birth of the Lord Yahawashi, all of these names that are mentioned here are names of men, right? Even the term begat goes back to a man passing seed from generation to generation, right? And that's our culture, right? That is how we, again, pass down inheritance. That is how we determine nationality. That's how you determine the tribe you're from. It's all based on patrilineal descendancy, right? But let's go into some history here in the scriptures, right? So this is Numbers 1, right? And if you go down here, I got verse 16 checked off, right? So if you go in here, so what was happening? Well, let's just read this, right? It says, "These were the renowned of the congregation, princes of the tribes of their fathers, heads of thousands in Israel," right? And Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls, right? So let's look up this word pedigree real quick in here. Let's see what it says. Pedigrees, yalad, right? Which Irish people use this term still, lad. This, which means a boy, right? A young boy, right? It says to bear, bring forth, beget. There's that word. Remember that. Gender, travail, to bear, bring forth, of childbirth, right? Of distress, of wicked behavior, to beget, to be born, right? So pedigree, right? Actually, let's do it like this. We'll use this tab for definitions. Oh, I looked it up. Pedigree. Let's see what it means. Definition, right there. Yeah, I've been combing through this stuff for a couple days now, so you'll see that I looked up some of these things. I just don't have it pulled up now. So this is pedigree. It says the record of descent of an animal, showing it to be purebred, right? It says the recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or family, right? So the descendants, the lineage, right? Line of descent, genealogy, right? So keep all of those things in mind. Genealogy, line of descent, and all those things, right? So what you're seeing now, right? What we're going through now is a little bit of history of our customs, right? In order for you to know what tribe you came from, right, you had to know who your father's 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 father was, right? And just to give a personal testimony, um, I just recently was given a picture of my grandfather, my father's father. I had never met the guy. Um, he was, I probably told this story before. I'm always telling some stories, but um, my grandfather, my father's father, was killed before I was born. Like my mom, I think, as the story goes, my mom was pregnant with me when he was killed. I won't get into the details, but he was killed, and so I never met him. And I always had, even before the truth, this void I felt from not knowing him. I knew my mom's father, but I never knew my father's father. And anytime I'd ask anybody about him, and tell me a story, if it was either from my granny or my father, which in turn is from my granny again, they would say he was a drunk and all of this stuff. So I ended up getting in contact with. I'm rambling now at this point, but it's okay. I ended up getting in contact with my father's sister from their father, and she had some better stories to tell, right? Which got me emotional. But they found a picture of him because from what I understand, the house he grew up with burned down and all the pictures were lost. But they found a picture of him and sent it to me, so I got it sitting up here in my room here. Um, but anyway, that void I felt was in my spirit understanding the importance of paternal lineage, right? Knowing where you came from is and was of vital importance, right? And that's a part of what we were discontinued from. Matter of fact, let's go over here. I got one open for definitions and I got one open to swim around in the scriptures. So let's go to Jeremiah 17 and 4. It says, "And now even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." Right? So a part of that discontinuing of our heritage was we don't even understand the importance of paternal lineage, right? Even when you see our people going up to accept awards, whether it be an Oscar or a Grammy, the ones they thank are their mothers, right? Which is fine, right? If your mom is there for you and she supported you through your journey in life to get to where you are today, it's fine to thank your mother. But the idea and concept of fatherhood in our nation is far gone, man. Far, far, far gone. And that's a part of the heritage that we've lost, right? So we don't even know the importance of a paternal lineage, or the, let's say, the significance of it, right? And this is a part of the reason why this idea or this concept is misunderstood, because they don't understand the history of our people, right? So that's numbers one. So let's go here, right? Because there's something important, right? Because what if a man didn't have any sons, right? When it came to matters of inheritance, right? So land, maybe some goods, maybe some property. What would happen, right? We'll go into this in just a second, but I wanted to go into. I'll go here first. This is Numbers 36 and 1, right? It says, "And the chief fathers of the families of the children of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph, came near and spake before Moses and before the princes, the chief fathers of the children of Israel," right? "And they said, The Lord commanded my Lord to give the land for an inheritance by lot to the children of Israel," right? So each tribe got a lot of land, right? "And my Lord was commanded by the Lord," or by Yahweh, "to give the inheritance of Zeloph it's a tough one. Zelo he had our brother unto his daughters," right? So this man, right, had his inheritance or his piece of land passed unto his daughters, right? "And if they be married to any of the sons of other tribes of the children of Israel, then shall their inheritance be taken from the inheritance of our fathers, and shall be put to the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received," right? So meaning what, right? So if that young lady, or one of those young ladies that have some of that land, some of that inheritance, marry, let's say, someone from Simeon, or someone from Judah, right, or someone that's not from Joseph, right, then that inheritance goes to that tribe that she's consumed in or assumed to, right? And so this was a concern, right? Because the Heavenly Father, look, He gave us each a lot of land, so we don't want to lessen the lot of land that He gave our tribe, right? So we gotta what are we gonna do to make sure that that inheritance stays with our tribe, right? It says, and when the jubilee of the children of Israel shall be, then shall their inheritance be put unto the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they were received. So shall their inheritance be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers, right? And Moses commanded the children of Israel according to the word of the Lord, saying, the tribe of the sons of Joseph have said well, right? I mean, they got a good point, right? This is the thing which the Lord doth command concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, right? Saying, yet let them marry to whom they think best, only to the family of the tribe of their father shall they marry, right? So even in matters where inheritance was given to the daughter, right? Let's say if a man didn't have any sons, which is probably the case here, if a man doesn't have any sons, right, his inheritance goes to his daughters, right? But in our customs and in our culture and in our history, right, if a piece of land did go to let's say a young lady, then that young lady could marry who she felt best, but it had to be somebody from her tribe, so that that land or that inheritance could stay within that tribe, right? So this is some of the history and customs of ours, right? So we understand the two things here now. One, the importance of paternal lineage. And not only did this go to inheritance, but this also extended out into the kingship, right? And again, as I think I said this already, most monarchies in history were by paternal lineage or patrilineal, right? So if there was a king, his son would be king after him, and then his son would be king after him, and then his son would be king after him. And if that man didn't have any sons, then the daughter would sit in that stead, right? Until um the daughter or the wife and then the daughter would sit in that stead until a young man was raised up. And there's a case of this, right, with Queen Elizabeth that just died recently, right? So I pulled this up just to make a point here. I think this is Queen Elizabeth. I don't recognize it. It's a bunch of Edomites, really, but I think this one right here is Queen Elizabeth. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I think it is. But what you get in this little article here or this excerpt is understanding of how Queen Elizabeth became queen, right? So King Edward the Eighth, right, which I think is Queen Elizabeth's uncle, right, her father's brother, right? He was the rightful heir to the throne because he was the oldest brother, right? So as the oldest brother, he should be again the rightful heir to the throne. But when you read here, right, this says the abdication of King Edward. He wanted to marry some chick, right? I think it mentions her in here somewhere. I can't remember where it was. I read it. Right here, Mrs. Wallace Simpson. So he wanted to marry a peasant. Sometimes that peasant box is a good box. I'm just messing around. But he wanted to marry just an average woman. So in order for him to do that, he had to, abdicate his throne, right? And so the younger brother, took over, which was Queen Elizabeth's father. Queen Elizabeth's father didn't have any sons, so it went to her, and her son now is King of England, right? So they're doing it right, right? Even though she's not the rightful heir, really, instead of it going to her son, it should have went to King Edward the Eighth. Let's say if he had sons and then grandsons, if she died, it shouldn't have went to her son. Should have went to back to his line. But that's neither here nor there. But just to make the point, but just to make the point there, that's the way things should be, right? When you have a monarchy, and this is not just our culture. Many cultures did this, right? Where you had the monarchy or the throne or the crown being passed down um, from son to son to son to son to son. And it's the same thing in the case of the Lord Yahawashi. So that's an important detail to understand, because this is why he's called the King of the Jews, right? Because he inherited the throne, right, by law, right, from his forefathers, right? So let me go real one more detail, right, of some history. So when you go into the book of Ruth, right, Ruth was the daughter-in-law of Naomi. Okay, so you had Ruth was married to one of Naomi's sons, right, which I think was Elimelech. Let me see if he's in here. Let's see. Do I got Ruth pulled up? I do. Let's go back over here. Yeah, Elimelech, right? And so when Elimelech and his two sons died, right? The husband of Naomi, which is Elimelech, and her two sons, when they died, right? Ruth, right? Because she was married to one of Naomi's sons, all that he had and owned went to her, right? And so she had to marry somebody that was from the tribe of Judah, which ended up being Boaz, right? If you read the story, you read the history, right? So when you get into this little bit of history here, it tells you Ruth's inheritance. Ruth received inheritance through her marriage to Boaz, right? Boaz acquired Ruth as wife in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, right? Which was Elimelech in this case, or the property that went to Elimelech's sons, right? Prevent the name of the dead from disappearing from his family or hometown, right? So that's another custom of ours where if a man died and he didn't have any sons, his brother would have to have or sons in his name to carry on the name of that brother, right? But in this case, because Elimelech's both of his sons died, his next of kin had to raise up sons in his name, which ended up being Obed, I believe. Uh, it says, provide a son to carry on the family name and inherit the family property, right? Boaz's actions, giving Ruth's proposal to a nearer relation, right? Because he before he took Ruth for himself, he was like, let me ask around, make sure none of the other cousins or what have you want to take you and take this piece of property or this inheritance, right? It says confirming before witnesses that he was next in line to take the land of Ruth as his wife, fulfilling his commitment to marry Ruth, right? So that's a little bit of history. I wanted to read it this way so that I didn't have to go through and read all of Ruth. But this is just another example of our culture. And this interaction here, or let's say this marriage here, Boaz and Ruth, is where our Lord Yahawashi came from, right? Um, so now let's get into the kingship, right, or the rulership or the monarchy of the Lord Yahawashi. We know that he's known as the King of the Jews. Matter of fact, I think John 2 says it. Let's try to find it. Let's go back over here. I think it's up at the top of John, the second chapter, where he's called the King of the Jews. I thought I had it. I thought I had it pulled up. No. It's not John 2. Boom. Let me see. Boom, right here. So let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll get into some history of this right here. So this is Matthew 2:1. It says, now when Yahawashi was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? Now, how could he be born King of the Jews, right? We'll go through it. So when you go to the first chapter here, right, it says, boom. So you got Abraham, right? There's Obed of Ruth again, right? Obed begat Jesse. Jesse begat David the king, right? So you had David the king who begat Solomon. And then from Solomon all the way down, I wanted to get to where it says 14 generations. All right, here, verse 17, right? It says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, right? And from David unto the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations. And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Hamashiach are 14 generations, right? So David is the king, okay? And the Lord Yahawashi is the direct line of David, right? So I'll get 1 second. The direct line of King David by way of Solomon, right? Now, King David had other sons as well, right? But the Lord Yahawashi was born from the kingly line of his sons, right? I want to show you that here, right? So if you go here, here's King David. I was trying to circle it, but I forgot this is a picture. So you got King David here, right? Here are all of Jesse's sons, or King David's brothers, right? These two are his sisters, right? And then you have David. These are all of his wives, okay? Or women, right? Because these are concubines, right? And then you see down here, right, that the kingly line went to Solomon, right? We know that. We read First Kings, Second Kings. We know that Solomon was the one that took the throne. Even though you had Absalom tried to take it, Amnon technically should have been the heir to the throne based on some of the history that we talked about, because he was the oldest brother, right? But he died. He was killed by Absalom. Even Adonijah, I think, at one point tried to take on the throne before King David died, right? But ultimately, it went to Solomon, which is where you get the Lord Yahawashi, right? So he came from that line, right? So in order for him to be king, right, he had to come from the kingly line. So Joseph, right, when you go here, now the birth of Yahushua HaMashiach was on this wise. When his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Spirit, right? So you got Joseph here, right? He is the rightful king to the throne in this time. The reason why he wasn't king is because the monarchy had been dissolved by then, right? Matter of fact, you can go here. Matter of fact, you can go right here, because it says it, right? David into the carrying away into Babylon. So after we was carried away into Babylon, right, the monarchy had been dissolved, right? Because we know that a tribe was saved in Jerusalem after the kingdom was rent from Solomon, right? And a matter of fact, I'm going a little bit too far. I want to go back a little bit, because I want to show you something, right? When you go to 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter, right? I actually got some other scriptures written down here too. So when you go to 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter, where is it? Boom, right here. So 2 Samuel 7 and 12, right? Let's read it. It says, and when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. Now, people think that this is talking about Solomon, but there's some things in here, there's some nuances in here that we have to pay attention to, which is, again, brings me back to what I said in the beginning, which was we have to pay attention to what the scriptures say and not what the doctrine says that was created first, and then try to fit the scriptures into the doctrine, right? So there's some nuances in here. It says, he shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever, right? Forever, right? Now we know this can't be Solomon, because the kingdom was taken from Solomon. So when you go here, it'll explain that, right? Let's see. Let's start at 19 here. This is 1 Kings 11 and 19. It says, and the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord, power of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant, right? So this couldn't have been talking about Solomon here in 2 Samuel's, because this says that the kingdom would be established forever. So this is talking about the Lord Yahawashi. I'm going to show you that in just a second, right? But let's go back to this real quick and finish this. It says, notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe by thy son for David my servant's sake and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen, right? So we know that one tribe was maintained, which was the tribe of Judah, right? And we also know that Benjamin and parts of Levi stayed. And that's what made up Judah, or the Jews, in the time when we get to the Romans, those three tribes, right? What is that? I think it's, what was that? Well, I don't want to get sidetracked. So those are the three tribes that stayed in the land, right? And so we know that when it talks about Second Samuel, it's talking about the Lord Yahawashi, and that's a part of that nuance, right? It says, I will be his father, and he shall be my son. That's another part of it, right? If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men, right? So this never happened to King Solomon, but it did happen to the Lord Yahawashi, right? So we know this is talking about the Lord Yahawashi, but there's some more to show you about that. So if we go to Isaiah 9, and I'm going to start at 6. So it says this, it says, for unto us a child is born, right? This is the prophecy. Unto us a son is given, and the government, right, or the kingdom, right, shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Power, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, right? Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, right? Just like it says here in 2 Samuel, right? Where does it say? Forever. Establish the throne of his kingdom forever, right? So let's go back. It says, show no end, right? Upon the throne of David, right? And upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this, right? So that's how he becomes the king, right? So if we go into a couple of things here, we talk about the paternal lineage, right? We talk about the monarchy and how it's passed down. That's how the Lord Yahawashi is king, only if Joseph puts seed into his wife Mary. That's the only way the Lord Yahawashi, well, let me not say the only way. That is how the Lord Yahawashi becomes king, right? Matter of fact, what is that? Let's go here. What is it? It is Romans 1, right? Romans 1 and I think 3 and 4, right here. It says, concerning his son Yahawashi Hamashiach our Lord, which was made of the seed of David, according to the flesh, right? And declared to be the Son of the Most High with power, according to the Spirit of holiness, by the resurrection from the dead, right? So he is the son of David, right? Or the seed of David. Let's look up this word seed here. The seed of David. Of the seed of David. Sperma, right? Which means David seeded seed to make Solomon, Solomon seeded seed to make Rehoboam, and so forth and so on. All the way till you get to the Lord Yahawashi, right? It says from which a plant germinates, right? The seed, i.e. the grain or kernel, which contains within itself the germ of the future plants, right? Of the grains or kernels sown, Salakia, metaphorically a seed, i.e. a residue, or a few survivors reserved as the germ of the next generation, right? Just as seed is kept from the harvest for sowing. The semen, right? Boom. There it is right there, right? So from man to man to man to man to man, all the way till you get to the Lord Yahawashi. This is how you get him being the king. Okay? Yes, he is let's say he is a king based on choosing, right? Because what did the Lord said? This is my son in whom I am well pleased, hear ye him, right? So he was chosen, right? By the Spirit and power, right? But he was also made of men. Matter of fact, what is that? Is it Galatians? Um, Galatians 4, I think it is. Let me see. It's been a long time. This is why I wanted to do this, because it's been a long time since I got into all of these details. Boom. Galatians 4 and 1, it says, "Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all." Right? This is talking about the Lord Yahawashi, right? "But is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of time was come, the Most High sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law," right? "To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons." Matter of fact, that's right here, right? To go into that a little further, this is Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 1. It says, "I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. And in my mother's womb," right, "was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man," right? "And the pleasure that came with sleep," right? "And when I was born, I drew in the common air and fell upon the earth, which is of like nature. And the first voice which I uttered was crying, as all others do. I was nursed in swaddling clothes, and that with cares, for there is no king that had any other beginning of birth." So this is how everybody's born, right? Your father, he look at your mom, and he saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna tear that up tonight," right? And then when he lays with your mother, he shoots seed into her, and then you little seedling, you swimming up the canal, and then you get to the egg, and then when you get to the egg, you penetrate that egg, and it becomes you. All men on earth had the same beginning, right? Which is heavy, right? Because when you go into, I think it's what is that? The likeness of our infirmities. I think that's how it goes. Likeness infirmities. I hope that's spelled right, because blue letter gets crazy. Damn. Let me see. Yet without sin. Boom. Hebrews 4 and 15, it says, "For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin." Let's go up in here. Let's just talk about the Lord Yahawashi. Boom. Verse 14. "Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Yahawashi, the Son of the Most High, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities," right? "But was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need," right? So it'll tell you, right, why priests were chosen in the flesh, so they can have some level of sympathy for us when they're sacrificing for us. And this is the same reason why the Lord Yahawashi was put in the flesh. So when he goes to be the propitiation for us, right, there is some legitimacy to his pleading. Like, look, I know what they went through, right? I was touched with those same infirmities, but he didn't have sin. That was the difference, right? Let me see. I think it's in Hebrews 5. I can't remember. It's been a long time. Boom. Right here. "For every high priest," this is Hebrews 5 and 1, "taken from among men, is ordained for men in things pertaining to the Most High, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for that he himself also is compassed with infirmity," right? "And by reason hereof he ought, as for the people, so also for himself, to offer for sins. And no man taketh this honor unto himself, but he that is called of the Most High, as was Aaron," right? And so the Lord Yahawashi was the same way, as it says in the scripture or the verse just before this, right? That he was touched with our infirmities, man. He was put in the flesh. He was tempted like we are, right? Which when you go to, let's go to it real quick. I think it's Matthew 4. When you go to Matthew 4, right? He was tempted just like we're tempted, right? Look, the temptation of Yahawashi. Then was Yahawashi led up in the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, right? And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the son of the Most High, command that these stones be made bread, right? So as this ensues, we understand that Satan tempted him at his weakest point, man. At his weakest point, right? So it was important for him to be made of the flesh, right? Of the seed of man, right? But this is how you know that Joseph was the father of Yahawashi, right? And he even said it to him. They was like, man, you ain't you the carpenter's son, right? It was understood who his father was, right? Um, so think I think that's everything. Yeah, there was something else I had. Yeah, so I think that's everything, man. So hopefully that was edifying, man. I hope. Actually, I got some other ones written over here for this point right here in Second Samuel's. Let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah 23. Jeremiah 23 and 5. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David, right, a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth, right? That's talking about the Lord Yahawashi, man. Right? So that was the last one. So that was it. So yeah, again, hopefully that was edifying, man. Um these are the details that Christianity leaves out, man. Now, this is not to say that the Lord Yahawashi is any less, let's say, heavenly, right? Or what is that word I had pulled up? Did I delete it? I think I did. It was deiform or something like that, or I think it's what was that? It was the word theus. What was that word? It was a word that meant that they use is a Latin term that means that the Lord Yahawashi is both human and godly, right? And so maybe that's another part to this, right? Because this is there's a lot of details, right? And again, I haven't done this in a long time, but um, again, hopefully that was edifying. As always, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Bashem Chak. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great millstone who rule well. Honor and salutations to the elect. And with that, I say shalom.